Hello, my name is Catherine Maignant. I'm Professor of Irish Studies at the University of Lille in France. I'm particularly grateful to the editors, Dr. Eamon Maher and Dr. Eugene O'Brien, for giving me the opportunity to contribute a chapter to the 100th volume of Peter Lang's Reimagining Ireland series. It is both a great honor and privilege for a French academic to be associated with such an important project. It was also a great challenge as my area of expertise, religion, doesn't easily lend itself to inclusion in the field of Irish studies. My chapter is entitled Religion and Irish Studies, Religion in Irish Studies. Studying religion as a specialist of Irish studies is a methodological challenge. My chapter, therefore, opens with an analysis of the epistemological difficulties a generalist is confronted to when engaging in the academic study of religion. The issue of the legitimacy of area studies as an academic research area is also taken into consideration on account of criticism by single disciplinary oriented scholars that area experts often lack methodological or theoretical skills in specific disciplines such as religious studies. The chapter thus provides the opportunity to question the merits of the basic postulates of Irish studies. It reiterates the validity of interdisciplinarity and reasserts Irish studies experts' assumption that local and contextual knowledge is key to analyzing an area's culture and history. I then proceeded to a detailed examination of Irish studies publications in the field of religion in historical and international perspective. It immediately transpired that the place of religion in area studies was a delicate one. As early as 1967, lectors commented that in the United States, religion as an academic subject was caught between a prevailing secularism in most phases of university life and a powerful strain of sentimentality in the religious life of society. He suggested that this might partly account for the fact that scholarship in religion had played almost no part in the burgeoning of foreign area studies programs. In secularized France, the study of religious subject was historically and often still is held in great suspicion and most certainly not encouraged in universities. Whether or not the same is true of other countries from where Irish studies have developed since the late 1960s, it is a fact that very few research students or academic researchers have dared move into that area, least of all those who were religious in their personal lives. In Catholic Ireland, the problem is different but produced the same effects. Little critical academic discourse on religion was possible before the church lost its moral authority and its vice grip control over the general population and the elites. Outsiders' comments also tended to be dismissed on the grounds that only insiders could perceive and understand Irish realities. As a result, the first notable academic works on religious issues published in the 1970s and 80s were all works by notable Irish historians, political scientists, or sociologists anchored in their disciplines. Throughout that period, outside Ireland, most Irish studies experts concentrated their research on the much less controversial study of Irish literature. In Ireland itself, the authority crisis to which the Irish Catholic Church was confronted from the 1990s and the controversies linked to the first abuse scandals that were disclosed at the time led to the multiplication of publications. Nevertheless, while many books on religious issues were published in Ireland, it remains hard to know which can be ascribed to the field of Irish studies, as the boundaries between disciplines have been blurred and as a number of non-academic books or books including non-academic contributors have contributed to the national debate over the reinvention of national identity in a post-Christian era. What's more, when one looks at the great Irish studies collections of the major publishers or the various journals of Irish studies across Europe, America, and beyond, one is struck by the surprisingly small number of articles or book chapters dealing with religious subjects, even in recent times. If we go back in time and peruse the back issues of the first Irish studies journals to have come into existence in the 1960s and 70s, the observation is less clear-cut. In some cases, the topics chosen by the various contributors, in fact, echo the traditional perception of Irishness at a time when the three fundamental pillars of Irish identity were still perceived to be nationalism, attachment to Gaelic culture, and Catholicism. Major changes appeared in the 1990s and noughties as Irish studies developed, leading to the creation of new journals across Europe, in the United States, and Australia. A new generation of scholars coming from a more diversified disciplinary background and confident in the relevance of interdisciplinarity had also come of age. In the meantime, the context regarding religion had changed in Ireland, that evolution was bound to attract the interest of Irish studies scholars, and it did, but to a limited extent only. It is hard to say if the reason for such disparities has to do with a clear editorial line and or other less easily identifiable causes, including the contribution of local researchers who do or do not have an interest in religious issues at a given period of time. The examination of publishing houses' Irish studies collections leads to equally puzzling conclusions. First of all, most publishers do not have specific series that go by that name. Irish publishers prefer to announce books about Ireland rather than Irish studies. Among foreign publishers, Manchester University Press is fairly unique in that among the large number of books about Ireland it has published in recent years, several concern religious questions. By contrast, among the publishing houses that do have Irish studies series, very few books touch on religious questions. In this overall context, Peter Lang has launched the Irish Studies collection entitled Reimagining Ireland, and quite a groundbreaking Studies in a Franco-Irish Relations series, both enthusiastically edited by Eamon Maher, which do include several books and chapters of collective works about religion. All of them concern contemporary issues. The first impression one gets when carefully listing all Irish studies publications in the area of religion is one of extreme eclecticism. Another is that few of their authors actually choose to specialize in that field and only occasionally published on issues related to religion. The third comment is that methodological heterogeneity is also the rule. None actually belongs to the field of religious studies proper. All belong to the fields of literary studies, cultural studies, or traditional social sciences such as history, sociology, political science, or anthropology. Another characteristic is that they span centuries from Celtic and early Christian times to the present, with a special emphasis on the 19th to 21st century period, hence the immediate impression of eclecticism. The chapter finally argues that the only identifiable small Irish studies research cluster focusing on religion since the origin of Irish studies in the 1960s is that which is currently led by Eamon Maher from TU Dublin. Today, it loosely connects researchers and religious actors across Ireland and France on an interdisciplinary basis. Individual but complementary research is carried out on the question of recent developments of the Catholic Church and Catholic Ireland in a fundamental spirit of open-mindedness. The research also includes the study of new religious movements and new religions in Ireland and the interesting phenomenon of the religions of the internet. The chapter thus concludes on a hopeful note, as religion is a promising area in Irish studies, especially in light of heightened secularization, the authority crisis that affects the Catholic Church, and new initiatives of great interest in the religious or spiritual field. Thank you very much for your attention.